You're listening to Aphrodite, My Love, a novel by Quint F. Camba.
Letter 20. The wheel of fortune never stops turning. Hi Aphrodite, my love. I desperately wanted to tell you something. Since publishing this book just over 6 months ago, the most extraordinary thing has happened to me. But first, I would like to know how you're. I pray that you're well and are happy. I pray that life has been kind and good to you since the last time I wrote to you. I often wonder if you have read any of my letters. I doubt that you have because, surely you would have emailed me once just to say hello, and maybe tell me that you've forgiven me for my youthful transgressions. I had an overwhelming urgency to write this story, because I did not want to grow old and die with all the decades of pent-up emotions, tied up in a knot in my heart. However, I did not imagine for even a second what followed after publishing this book. But before I get into that, let me tell you about a wonderful dream I had of us. A few weeks ago, I'm sure I mentioned already, somewhere in my letters, that dreams have always been very important to me. They are like the source of real truth to me, like a window into my very soul and that of the universe, if it has one. Honestly, sometimes the universe behaves as if it has one. I used to get very upset when I couldn't remember my dreams in the morning, or when I didn't have any. It felt like the best part of my day had been snatched away from me, if I could not remember any of my dreams. In the last few years, I barely remember any of my dreams, so I'm always very grateful when I do. 2 weeks ago, I had a wonderful dream of us. The dream was a bit strange, as dreams generally are. It was the first day back at Chaplin High, after the mid-year holidays in 1985. I had spent the holidays in England and had not seen you for more than a month. Whilst I was away, you'd written to me, telling me that you'd changed your mind and you'd go out with me after all. You explained how much you missed me and could not wait to see me on my return. I had been so thrilled and cut my vacation short to get back to Zim, so that we could begin the greatest romance since Romeo and Juliet. I arrived at school a bit late that morning and assembly was already underway. For some reason, assembly was being held on the tarmac outside the assembly hall. Everyone was standing up singing the obligatory hymn, Immortal, Invisible, God Only Wise. I smiled happily, because my friend, Arthur Moquina, had changed the words to Imota, Inofamba, Nima Viri Eo, which he sang out loudly and always made me laugh. The Shona, for a car, drives on its wheels. It was a lovely sunny morning, not too hot, not cold at all. Just the usual perfect Gweru weather, with blue skies drenched in beautiful summer sunshine. I immediately spotted you in the front row of students. You were wearing that wonderful striped green summer uniform for girls at Chaplin High. Your beaming smile and gorgeous brown eyes just lit up with delight when you saw me. Aphrodite, you were so beautiful, and what you made me feel inside whenever I laid my eyes on you simply cannot be described with words. Think of the most blissful feeling you've ever had and multiply it a trillion billion times. I marched straight up to you and you moved along sideways to make some space for me. I shuffled in between you and Soraya, that Indian girl who moved to Australia at the end of Form 2. Somehow in the dream she was a close friend of yours. I stood right next to you. I put my left arm around your waist and we shared your hymn book. For a split second, I saw us young and beautiful and older and wiser at the same time. This is what I love about dreams so much. The ability to experience any dimension no matter how unimaginable. You looked up at me as we sung and you mouthed the words, I missed you, and smiled. I looked into your beautiful brown eyes and for a second or two, looking at your face, your lovely light brown flawless skin, your large brown eyes, your long wavy black hair, I drank the cool water from the mountain spring fountain, from the very source of life itself, and there was only pure joy in my heart. I was a god, immortal and invincible. I whispered, looking into your eyes, I love you. Your eyes widened and lingered on mine for a few seconds. Your perfect lips quivered gently. Your beauty was unsurpassable. Aphrodite, the love and deep connection that I felt for you, that we felt for each other in that moment was fathomless. I pulled you closer to me and lowered my head to kiss your lips, but you quickly turned your face downwards and nestled your head in my left shoulder. My lips fell on your forehead. But, in the split second before you turned your face away from mine, I saw something in your eyes that singed my heart to the bitter frigid darkness of empty eternity. It was a look that said, I love you as a friend, but we'll never be more than that. We'll never be together like that, ever. Your heart was never going to be mine. I knew in that instant, I would die without ever knowing the taste of your lips, the gentle caress of your bosom, and without ever hearing the words I love you from your lips. The pain I felt was so great that everything just went blank. Is that what it feels like to die? Then I woke up from the dream, Aphrodite. I was trembling and shaking, but somehow excited at the same time. Firstly, I was excited because I had not dreamt about you in many months. And of course I've not seen you in decades, and yet in the dream I could see your features as clearly as the first time I ever saw your face. More than that, in the dream you had actually spoken to me so nicely, like lovers do. We were very, very close friends. That made me so happy, and I set about trying to understand the dream. I realized the dream was telling me something very special. It was telling me that I should be grateful to the universe for all the people it has ever sent my way. I realized, Aphrodite, that you were not just the girl I fell head over heels in love with. You were much more than that. You were an angel sent to me by the infinite wisdom of the universe and the divine spirit, to take my hand and guide me through the troubled waters that were going to come my way throughout my life. You can't imagine, Aphrodite, how well you've played that role and the impact it has had on my life. I wasn't like other kids, Aphie. I had nothing, no one to guide me in those early years. I was totally broken, a complete wreck. But when I met you, everything changed. It is impossible to describe how joyous my heart felt whenever I saw you or thought about you for 4 years at Chaplin High School. For decades you inspired me to carry on even in the darkest of moments throughout my life. Even when I had completely given up, I still clung on to life, because somewhere at the back of my mind, you were there, gently nudging me ahead. Even though you never loved me back. I thank you for coming into my life and letting me experience this crazy thing called love. What I did with it was my own doing, and not your fault. I pray that you found true love along the way, and that it was as beautiful and mesmerizing as you were beautiful and mesmerizing to me. That brings me to the thing I wanted to tell you. I don't really know how to put it, Aphrodite. It's been almost 4 decades since I last saw you. You were my secret companion right up until the day I first published this novel last September, in 2023. It took pouring my heart out to you in these pages, leaving nothing to the imagination, to finally let you go and set my soul free. Does anyone care? Will anyone ever read the story? It really doesn't matter much. The only way that I've been able to heal after 4 decades was by writing the story and casting it back in the melting pot of the universe. If someone reads it and learns something from it, then all well and good, but if not, the universe in all its infinite wisdom will know what to do with it. It is so strange to live without the pain of losing you in my heart anymore, Aphrodite. But I know it's the right thing to do. Once in a while I get a short pang of nostalgia and longing for the power that my love for you had over me. Then I quickly let out a sigh, and tell myself that it is better to have loved and lost, than never to have loved at all. Honestly, Aphrodite, I have so much to thank you for. I think that love is the most important thing in any person's life. If you lose love and live to tell the tale, then no other loss in life will ever hurt. Life has been a real roller coaster ride for me, Aphrodite. I told you how I met these 2 beautiful girls in Bulgaria. I ended up going out with one of them, but quickly lost her when I decided to stay and complete my studies in England. I never went back to Bulgaria. One of the biggest mistakes of my life, by the way. When I decided to stay in England, love pretty much took a backseat in my life. I was on automatic pilot for nearly 4 decades up until I wrote our story, and then like waking up from a 4 decades long coma. Here I was, unrecognizable to myself, both on the inside and on the outside. Even though I thought about you every day for decades, I didn't realize that you were such an important part of my life, Aphrodite. When I wrote this story and finally let go of you, it felt like I was reborn. Suddenly I could see that there were other people in the world and life was getting by. I was in shock and a little lost, because I felt like I was half a century behind the herd. So, I asked myself what it all meant. The answer came to me surprisingly easily. Follow your destiny. Be grateful for the life you are and the people in your life. Be useful to others, even if it's just one other person in the world. So, that's what I will try to do with the rest of my life, Aphrodite. I will try to be useful as best as I can. I really want to thank you for showing me what love can be. Love has many forms. My love for you was just one expression of it, but there are many others. It sounds so flippant, doesn't it? 40 years of a painful obsession, distilled into a couple of lines like an epitaph. To love, may you mysteries never cease to confound. And to you, Aphrodite, you're a real angel. May your beauty never fade. Okay, finally let me tell you what I wanted to tell you in the first place. When I came to England, I never found love. I met many women, but they were dead behind the eyes and only wanted one thing. Contrary to popular fiction, England was a cold and mercilessly transactional country where everything has a price label, and I came to think that it was impossible for love to exist in such a place. So I gave up on love. Of course I could be totally wrong. After all, I'm the guy who was in love with a girl who didn't love him back for 40 years, so what do I know about love? But as luck would have it, a woman who bought my book and read our story contacted me and we started exchanging messages. Can you believe that, Aphrodite? Back in the day, when we were young, there was no such thing as messaging. Otherwise you could have just messaged me to leave you the heck alone and the story would have been nipped in the bud. Anyway, it wasn't long before we found out that we had feelings for each other. Love, Aphrodite, is a very strange thing. It has the power to shatter the universe. It can appear from nowhere like a ghost, change your life forever and vanish behind the mist at a moment's notice, leaving you cold as death. It has the power to heal and mend broken hearts. It's never too late to find love. Forgive yourself even if no one else will. Love conquers all. You know, Aphrodite, as a kid, everything that could have gone wrong in my life did go wrong. But when I set my eyes on you that day in the chemistry class 40 years ago, a small fire was set alight in my soul. I really thought you were the one. I'm really sorry things didn't work out between us. You broke my heart, Aphrodite, but it's all right. I'm okay now. After 40 years lost in the wilderness, I eventually found my way home. And finally found love too. It took me nearly 40 years to realize that you were an angel sent to guide me through dark times. I know I could not have made it this far without you. Thank you for walking this long journey of life by my side, even if you were mostly only ever in my own head. This is my very last letter to you, so it leaves me to say, goodbye, Aphrodite Kasim. I shall never forget you. Yours truly, Cozy. Letter 21. A fresh perspective 1. Hi Aphrodite. How are you, my love? I hope you're well and living the dream wherever you're. It's been over a year since I last wrote to you. I know that I promised you that my previous letter would be my last letter ever to you, and I truly meant it. But alas, the sun wanders across the sky. The earth turns and the seasons change, and my restless mind changes with them. After I published this book of letters, I went nearly 6 whole months without ever thinking about you. It was glorious, Aphrodite. The sense of relief from the constant noise of deliberating everything in my head with you, even in the quietest moments of my life, was finally silenced. I also told you how other wonderful things happened, so it was a really marvelous time for me. Unfortunately, since about 3 months ago, your voice has come back to me with such renewed vigor, I'm completely at a loss as to how this has occurred. I suspect it might have been the dreams I told you about. They were so vivid, so real, and so powerful. After each dream, I woke up in the morning feeling so invigorated and so strong it felt like that there was nothing I couldn't do. Like I could literally move a mountain with my thoughts alone. If I can do that from just a dream, imagine what I could have achieved if I had you for real. Bears thinking about, really. Anyway, I'm not sitting down to write about what could have been and so on. Such indulgence would only strengthen my despair. What I now seek, despite myself, is the elusive path back to freedom, back to sanity. How, Aphrodite, to live without you? I know the answer lies within me, in those few milliseconds that our eyes met for the first time eons ago. A seed was planted in my soul. The seed germinated and grew into a tree that grew and grew, but failed to blossom. The tree wants to blossom, but it can't because it's all alone. You get my drift, right? The love I have for you is like that tree. It's in every cell of my body, in every thought, every emotion. It's literally who I am. In the past, I've sought to destroy it, package it up and ship it far away from me, or leave it all behind and forget about it. But in every one of those cases, I've been totally wrong. I've been asking the wrong questions and making the wrong assumptions. Questions like, how can I forget you? What can I do to stop the pain? How can I live without you? All wrong. Actually, Aphrodite, the honest truth is that none of this makes any sense to me whatsoever. I mean, how is it possible for any rational person to continue pining over someone for decades, particularly when she was never interested in them in the first place? Something very, very strange happened to me the day I met you, Aphrodite. Something inexplicable. Every time I close my eyes and you come to me, I ask myself why it should be so. I have so much going on in my life and I should not have time for anyone else. And yet you're never more than a hair's breadth away. I've been doing a lot of thinking lately because everything now feels rushed, and I feel like I'm running out of time. I guess it's something that comes with age. I was 57 years old just a few weeks ago, but I feel much more ancient than that. My memory is still sharp, so I can look at the review mirror all the way back to the early years with crystal clarity. It's a peculiar curse, as all I see is a trail of tragedies dating back to day one. Because I'm such a cynical old fool, let me recount some of them. There's the loss of both parents at age 3, the failure to reunite with one of my parents at age 8 or 9, the loss of my home at the farm in Soliloquy age 10, and of course the most painful of all, the failure to win your love age 18. That, more than anything, makes my heart stop beating altogether. If it seems I'm gloating over my tragedies, I'm really not. I know people have it much worse even today. I also know it's very childish and I should grow up and do one. But no amount of rationalizing can remove the spell you cast on me. And even as I found love and am happier, yours is the voice I hear when I close my eyes to sleep. And even in sleep, a battle rages to connect with you, to find you, to reach out across the ages. Sometimes, I break through the veil and you appear to me in my dreams. Then I'm re-energized. I was thinking that I should save up some money and one day travel to Peru, deep in the Amazon jungles, and find a curandero, a tribal shaman, take ayahuasca, and hopefully you will appear to me in the flesh as you did in the dream back at Chaplain High. I could finally talk to you and get the answer I've been asking myself for decades. Does it matter, you might ask? I don't know, Aphrodite. Does anything really matter? Maybe it might silence the voices in my head. Honestly, I don't have a clue. I wish that I didn't have to wait till I was dead for the visions and voices to stop. All it takes is a song, a moment in a film, a gentle breeze, the sun on my face, the fragrance of a rose, and I'm lost, talking to you in my head. Speaking of songs, I wrote an entire album of 10 songs and dedicated them all to you. I'll put the YouTube links in the appendix so you can listen to them if you like. I hope you like at least one or two. It really was an emotional experience to put the words together and see the song come alive. A fit that would not have been possible without clever AI tools they have today. It really is quite remarkable. Anyway, the real reason I wanted to write you again was to tell you that I'm planning to go back to Zim on holidays for the first time since I left in '88. As time passes by and I'm getting older, I gravely miss home and want to see Gweru again. I plan to visit all the places I last saw as a kid. And of course I will visit Chaplain High and sit down on a bench somewhere and relive every glorious moment that I experienced in that amazing school. Despite it having been an extraordinarily difficult time for me, I have immensely fond memories of Chaplain High. The sweet fragrance of the purple jacaranda blooms, the endless days of warm sunshine, the joy I felt whenever I caught a fleeting glimpse of a certain girl called Aphrodite. Each glimpse, I incorrectly surmised, was bringing us closer and closer together. Oh, if I could go back and talk to that boy, I would grab him by the ears and sit him down. Now listen to me, boy, this has to stop right now. I would say to him, Do you want to ruin your life? You forget about that girl right now. Do you hear me? I would clip him at least once for a good measure. He would listen because I think that's all someone needed to say to me back then. In my first book, I described my first love, my grade 3 teacher, Mrs. Chimedza at Rockford School in Soliloquy. I said something pretty clever like, my love for her had grown like an extra limb or heart. The point I was trying to make was why should something I felt so deeply not be part of me simply because no one can see it? It was as real to me as any part of my body. My love for Mrs. Chimedza faded away in time and every other girl until I met you. Perhaps, using Mrs. Chimedza's analogy, something did really grow deep in my heart and you can only stop appearing in my mind if it's cut away from my heart. You know that, at the end of the first edition of this book, I proposed to you and married you. I just thought it was original and kind of funny to finish the story that way with a nice happy ending. I was also convinced after emptying my thoughts on the pages of a book, it would finally seal the deal and I would never think about you again. It worked for a while, but then it popped right back again. Don't get me wrong. It's not a horrible experience and half the time I don't realize I'm doing it. It's only after a while I suddenly realize I've been telling you stuff that's going on in my life and time has just flown by. Anyway, I told you everything that happened in my life as a kid. Life didn't turn out how I had expected it to. Not even close. But I'm really thankful that I survived this long and had the experiences I had, no matter how unpleasant they were. Sometimes. What I've learned is that in the grand scheme of things, in this great cosmos I'm just a tiny speck of dust, insignificant, here today, gone tomorrow. I know now that we don't always have control of the things that happen to us, and I must embrace the good, the bad and the ugly that comes my way with equal zest. I guess it had to come with age, right? So now I don't go all in on anything. I don't let anything excite me or annoy me too much. I now always try and answer one question: what is the universe trying to tell me with this bad thing or good thing that's come my way? As I look back, the most unbelievable things have happened to me. The most important thing being I managed to survive against all odds. I also had a chance of great wealth and lost it all. My saddest, though, is I had a chance of real love and I lost that too. So maybe the universe put me on this earth for one reason alone: be the guy who makes a mess of his life, writes a book about it so other people can read it and avoid making the same mistakes. Of course, this is me displaying my delusions of grandeur because the universe is too big to care about a speck of dust. So my experiences probably really don't matter to anyone at all. Still, I will write it all down anyway, if only because one day when you're an old lady, long after I'm gone, one of your grandchildren might chance upon this book and bring it to you. You might say to yourself, let me just read it, what harm could that do? Then you might read it and a lone tear of pity might run down one cheek. And who knows? Maybe I will feel a glow of warmth from that tear as it hits the ground, in the next life. I'm 57 years old now, and considering everything I went through, I really feel lucky to be still around. But to be honest, I'm exhausted now. I always tell my kids I've been working since the age of 4 as a farm boy looking after sheep and cattle and full-scale farmer by the time I was 7. So I already feel like I've been around for bloody ever. And another thing, the other day I can't remember what prompted me to take stock of my life and run through everything that happened to me, and I was overwhelmed by how much I just didn't care about it anymore. There was a kind of acceptance that everything happened as it was destined to happen, and there was nothing I could have done differently no matter how hard it was for me to come to terms with it. I also felt like I accepted that, if this was my life done, and I was never going to achieve any of my dreams, that too was okay. In other words, if I was to drop down dead today, I would have no regrets. It's almost as if I feel like I died a long time ago and every day I'm alive now is a priceless gift from the universe. An almost undeserving opportunity on my part. Even though I've only written a couple of pages now, I've been writing this letter for weeks. A few paragraphs here and there whenever I get the compulsion to do so. Nothing forced, no urgency. Today I had a lovely chat with my youngest daughter. She's in her 3rd year to university. She's so smart and focused, it totally amazes me that such a young person can be so disciplined. I'm not sure if I told you, but I've been married for nearly 25 years now and have 2 very beautiful girls. When I look at them both, it blows my mind how incredibly lucky I've been to be given the opportunity to bring up these 2 incredible human beings, and now to be a small part of their lives. Yes, the thought has crossed my mind that, whilst I could not win your love, the universe saw it fit to present me with 2 beautiful daughters who love me unconditionally. I don't even have to fight for their love, they just give it freely. And of course, I'm incredibly grateful that things turned out that way. It's actually pretty amazing. I've managed to recreate in my life that special love that I witnessed through your window the night I came to your house. Such love, such warmth. Who would have thought that could be possible in my life? Can you imagine, Aphrodite? That little boy who chased you relentlessly night and day, made it out after all. Despite everything we went through, I would love to hear about your life. Where did you go? Who did you marry? How many children do you have? Are you happy? Is everything good with you? Do you ever think of me? I see some people I knew from way back at Chaplain High on Facebook, and it's wonderful to see how happy and successful they all are. My best friend at Chaplain High, the one I used to play tennis with that I told you about earlier, read this book. He said that he now understands me. I thought that was the kindest thing anyone had ever said to me. It means that even though I'm totally messed up, there are people out there who can understand where I'm coming from. Personally, as I mentioned previously, I do not think that anyone who not only lost their parents as a tiny tot, but was also abused as a child can ever grow up to be a normal adult. They will always be somewhat broken. No one can see mental scars. But there no less. My eldest daughter, observing the kinds of things I write and say, sometimes said she thought I have a lot of issues that I should have seen someone about, like a therapist. I recognize that in myself as well. But I'm almost certain I'll never do it, mainly because I no longer carry most of the emotional baggage from the past. Whilst I remember everything, it does not cause me any suffering anymore. For instance, I think that the perpetrators of my abuse were so ignorant and uneducated they could not have behaved otherwise. They acted on impulse like wild animals incapable of reasoning. I saw on Twitter, X, an African man from Zimbabwe beating a 9-year-old boy with a metal pole and a wire. He also threw a brick at the poor boy's legs. He kept hitting that child again and again. It made me cry, Aphrodite, because one of my uncles hit me like that when I was 8 years old and I was terrified. I thought he was going to kill me. That poor boy must have been so scared. These people have no idea of the damage such abuse does to a child as they grow up. They most certainly will never escape the emotional scars. Sadly, some of them will become abusers in turn. I really want to be able to help kids like that one day, so I'm going to work really hard and do something one day. That's what I really want to do. So help me God. It's been a couple weeks at least since I last put pen to paper in this letter. Today I was particularly pensive for reasons I cannot fathom. Yesterday, although it's still autumn, it snowed heavily for about an hour. Today, even though all the snow has cleared, it's bitterly cold and utterly miserable. It's at times like these that my thoughts go into overdrive. I cannot get over that I spent the entirety of my childhood wishing I could move to England, and now I spend all my adulthood wishing I could leave and get back to Gweru. I really loved that town, Endless days of pure diamond sunshine. Not to mention how pretty the town was, with all those beautiful houses with perfectly manicured flower gardens and lush green lawns. My cousin Dingain visited Gweru last year and reckons it's lost all its luster. It filled me with such sadness to think that, once the home of my most prized treasure, has been reduced to a shanty town. I often wonder where you moved to: Aphrodite, Australia, Canada, South Africa, New Zealand. I haven't a clue. I don't know if I mentioned this to you. Back in '87 when I was doing my A-levels at Prince Edward in Harare, during one of the school holidays I suddenly had a deep irresistible desire, almost like a calling, to go and visit my uncle's home in Gweru. I think it had been over a year since I had spoken to anyone there and wasn't really sure what to expect. I need not have worried, as they welcomed me with open arms and treated me with such respect I was embarrassed by it. When people have treated you so badly for so long and then suddenly do a 180-degree turn and completely change, it can be quite disconcerting. Despite vowing never wanting to see you again, I went into town a couple of times hoping to catch a glimpse of you passing by, so that my heart could jump out of my mouth and I would feel alive again. I sat for an hour in the coffee shop opposite that sports shop where I used to have my tennis rackets restrung. Alas, you didn't come by, just as always happened. In 4 years together at Chaplain High, not once did I ever see you outside of school. That really baffled me. I always wondered where you disappeared to during the school holidays. True to your nature, even to this day you only exist in my imagination. You have no digital footprint, which both fills me with admiration and dread. In the whole year since I last wrote to you, you've only come to me in my dreams 4 times. One of which I told you about already, one I can only tell you in person and if we become friends, and 2 other that were too convoluted to make sense. I'm sure I've already mentioned how wonderful it makes me feel when you visit me like that. Each night I wonder if you'll come to me. Alas, you hardly ever do. Today I watched something on YouTube that got me thinking. It's a YouTube channel called The Humble Penny, if I remember correctly, by a lovely young couple based in London. It got me taking stock of my entire life again. I won't bore you with the details, but what I figured out about myself left me shaken and somewhat terrified. When I was a kid, I had it all figured out. I knew exactly what I was going to do and how successful I was going to be. When I saw just how far I felt short of my goals, it was just shocking beyond belief. In the past, I would have blamed my shortcomings on all sorts of things, my poor upbringing, lack of opportunities, all sorts. But I actually realize I've had a countless supply of ample opportunities and I wasted them all, Aphrodite. So I alone am to blame for all my failures. I get so tunnel-visioned that the world will go by whilst I'm fruitlessly chasing my own tail like a dog. Unfortunately for me, time's running out fast. I only have time for one last push, and if that doesn't work out, then it's really game over for me. The Humble Penny couple blew my mind. Honestly, Aphrodite, if you get a chance you must watch all their videos. They also have a book called Financial Joy, which I've purchased and started listening to already. It really blew my mind just how financially savvy this couple is and how they managed to gain financial freedom at such a young age. What they said has left me really shaken because at this age I'm acutely aware of all the wasted opportunities and how I could have done things differently to achieve some sort of financial success. Not just for myself, but I know that there are people back home with so little and I would have been able to help them somehow. That's what hurts so much. If I had not been so focused on my feelings and had simply let go of the past, maybe things would have turned out differently. Still, I hope it's not too late and one day I can still build that school in Zim. Wish me luck. I must stop now because I've been rambling on for far too long. But before I go, I just want to say 2 more things. 1. I'm really sorry that I've kept writing to you even after promising that I would stop. As I said before, I think something fundamental changed in my brain chemistry the day we met and I'm now stuck with you forever. Rather than try to rescind you from my life, I think that I should embrace the fact that I will always have this narrative in my head with you. You're kind of a spiritual twin that my mind turns to from the moment I wake to the moment I fall asleep. Maybe it's not such a bad thing to have. In any case, I'm too old to keep fighting, so I won't fight it anymore. If this life loves you so much, who am I to come in between you and it? I will write to you again soon and let you know how things are going, whether I manage to go back to Gweru next year or not. The second thing is that I feel that everything that's gone wrong in my life is justified. I'm a terrible, terrible person, Aphrodite, and a right yellow belly coward to boot. The reason I say this is because of what I did to my girlfriend Beatrice Danger de la Cruz. I just left her in Bulgaria and never went back to her. She was so beautiful and silenced my pain completely. With her by my side I felt complete. Those few months that we were together, all the way back in '89, was the first and last time I ever felt complete bliss, like being washed in a shower of pure golden light. Think of the lottery. With Beatrice I had just won the jackpot and been crowned king of the entire universe. And what did I do? I just left her in Sofia, Bulgaria, and never wrote to my love, never called, never tried to go back to her. Wicked man. For that reason I accept all the hardships I've suffered over the years, all the losses, all the failures. They were utterly deserved. Believe me, Aphrodite, I've imagined for myself the kind of punishment that would make Julius Caesar's assassination on the Ides of March look like a kindergarten parent's evening play. I beg her forgiveness. I beg your forgiveness also because although you both enriched my life so immeasurably, I turned out to be a thankless low-life squib. I hope you can both find it in your hearts to forgive the unforgivable. Finally, with that I must say goodbye, dear Aphrodite. Till next time. Have a wonderful 2024 Christmas and a wonderful and happy new year in 2025. Goodbye, Aphrodite Kasim. Yours truly, Kosi. P.S. When I first heard the song, I Just Want to Forget You, I cried buckets. Aphrodite, I realize now that I'll never truly forget you. No matter how hard I try, you're etched into my soul, and there's nothing I can do about it. Lately, I've been thinking about rewriting this story from a completely different perspective. Imagine, two young people, us, from entirely different cultures and worlds, a Beauty and the Beast tale, if you will. Against all odds and obstacles, they meet, fall hopelessly in love, and defy everything to marry and live happily ever after. What do you think? I must confess, this idea was inspired by that young couple from The Humble Penny I told you about before. The way they love each other, it shines through in every word and action. It's the kind of love that feels like a fairy tale but proves itself to be real in the most beautiful way. I used to believe that kind of love only existed in dreams. But now I see it's real, tangible, and worth everything. Blessed are those who find it. Truly, they are the luckiest of us all. Letter 22. A Fresh Perspective 2. Hi Aphrodite. How are you, my love? I hope you're doing well. I really hope that my letters are getting to you and one day you will find it in your heart to write back to me. My heart yearns for you in ways that, even after writing all these letters to you, in an effort to cure my pain, I still can't figure out why you still make my heart burn. Yesterday I watched something on YouTube that went some way in explaining my predicament. Do you remember I mentioned that I believed that, when you have a strong emotional experience like falling in love or some sort of trauma, something actually physically changes in your body? I think the example I gave was, it was like growing an invisible limb. Well, it turns out that something really does change. In Lewis Howe's YouTube channel, this guy called Greg Braden explains how that happens. He explained that every emotion creates what are called neuropeptides in the body, which under normal circumstances are short-lived. Unless the emotions are unresolved, then the neuropeptides will be stored in the body for up to 70 years, or until we have the tools to resolve that emotion or trauma. For me, that explains everything. Because I loved you with every cell, every fiber of my body and soul, it just created a runaway feedback loop of neuropeptides till my entire body was filled with them. That's why I've been unable to give you up. You should really listen to it if you get a chance. It's titled, The Ancient Manifestation Secrets Change Everything About Law of Attraction. Greg Braden. I loved you so much, Shamwari, Aphrodite. So it's those pesky neuropeptides keeping you locked in my soul. Greg explained that there are effective treatments and patients become free of them in time. He said that patients weep with joy after receiving the treatment and being free from living with trauma for the first time in their lives. I'm gonna get the treatment as soon as I can afford it. I know what it's like to be free from that constant pain because I experienced it the first time I finished this book. I cried so much when I was writing the book that I think that got rid of some of the neuropeptides, and for a while I was almost normal. Unfortunately, it all came back with almost twice the vigor. That's why next time I will seek professional help. Anyway, the other night I had another dream about you. You must be so sick of hearing about my dreams. But to me, whenever you come to me in my dreams, it is a source of endless joy. You come to me in my dreams the way I wished our life would have been together had you become my girlfriend, my woman, my kindred spirit, my soulmate. So in the dream, we were back at school in that big hall at Chaplin High. For some reason, we seemed to be searching for each other, and when our eyes met across the room, the joy was just incredible. There are just no words to describe the intensity of the love that we had for each other. You just ran across the room and fell into my arms, and the whole room was spinning around us. We were at the center of it, all eyes on us, even the headmaster and all the teachers. Then quite imperceptibly, we were at our wedding at that school rugby field with the racing track. I don't know if you remember it. It was a beautiful field with an immaculate lawn. There were hundreds of well-wishers and relatives at our wedding. We were dancing on a red carpet in the middle of the field, and you pulled me towards you and whispered, "This is the night when all your dreams will come true." You smiled knowingly and I went to kiss you. But instead I woke up. It was 3 in the morning. But I got up and wrote a song. The song is called last night, and it's available on my YouTube channel called Quint F. Kamba, Music Stories and Insights. I really love that song. The emotions that I go through when I'm listening to it and imagining what we could have been are completely out of this world. Of course, I know that I'm perpetuating my own suffering by entertaining these thoughts and emotions. I'm completely stuck in reverse and will never be able to move on unless I learn to deal with the fact that you were never mine to hold and will never be. My brain creates all these falsehoods and I'm a fool for believing it. Still, it's so nice when you come to me like this. I'm charged up and highly motivated for days on end afterwards. To be honest with you though, Aphrodite, I secretly wish to die so that all this pain could go away. But now that I know this pain is all because of these pesky neuropeptides in my heart, and that they can be removed with the correct treatment, I'm really hopeful for the future. I do wish though, Aphrodite, that one day you could forgive me and find it in your heart to talk to me just once. Maybe, just maybe all I need is for you to notice me just once. Acknowledge me and say something kind. Just once and my soul will be set free. Maybe that's all that it will take to cure me. Is it not worth a try? But it might also be good for you, if you have any unresolved things you want to iron out with me. I'm not a bad person at all. I was just so screwed up as a kid, as I explained in my letters, that sooner or later I was bound to mess things up really badly. And boy, did I mess things up in an epic way. But I survived, and now I can share my story and hopefully young people will see it and avoid making the same mistakes as I did. Many criminals serve much shorter sentences for far worse crimes than my transgression of falling in love with you. I would gladly trade places with them if that meant alleviating the heartache I've endured for so long. So, Aphrodite, please, talk to me just once. Please. I know that you have your own life and won't want a person like me from the past showing up uninvited, and that's not what I'm asking for. Just a phone call like we did once. Hello, Aphrodite. How are you? I'm so glad you agreed to talk to me. Aphrodite, I'm so sorry about what happened to us at school. Can you forgive me? Then we can say goodbye amicably. And hopefully many years from now, before I lay down for the last time, I can write you one last letter and say goodbye. What do you say, Aphrodite? I've started paying close attention to my thoughts whenever I catch myself talking to you in my head. You know, that narrative that's always going on in my head when I'm alone with my thoughts. It actually feels a lot worse than it actually is. For example, I start talking to you whenever I am not busy or just before I go to sleep and first thing when I wake. Then there are moments when I see a happy couple and just wonder what it would have been like if we got together. In that moment, I'm overwhelmed with a deep sense of frustration and a feeling that the universe robbed me of what was rightfully mine. Of course, that's insane. It's complete madness. But those are the sort of obstacles I place in front of myself every day. Going round in circles day after day. It's totally draining, Aphrodite. After completely opening up to you in the world, I feel like the universe is gradually sending me a little help, bits of information here and there, now and then to steer me in the right direction. I really feel like one day I will be able to move on. I don't know what that will look like. Because ultimately I don't know what it would be like to completely live without you constantly occupying so much space in my head. I don't even know if I want to give you up. In other words, I don't know who I am without you. Whose voice will I hear? Whose face will I see? Whose memory will I cherish if you go? I don't hate having you around. I just know it's wrong and that it's got to stop. On the other hand, Aphrodite, I don't need to completely silence your voice in my head. Perhaps I just need to change my reaction to it. When I first met you, you were the best thing that ever happened to me. My heart overflowed with the deepest, most beautiful love imaginable. Instead of whining and complaining about never winning your hand, I should be grateful that you came into my life, period. For that reason, I'll be true to the love that I felt the first time I ever laid my eyes on you. Whenever I think about you, I will not feel pain or regret, only joy and gratitude. After all, Aphrodite, I may never have held you in my arms, but I held you tight in my heart and soul. Is that not real love too? No one has ever captured my heart like you did. If the most beautiful woman in the universe fell from the sky into my arms today, she still would not touch my soul the way you did. But in time I will learn to love again. Maybe, just maybe, I'll get to figure out what love is and why I am still here. If it wasn't to give myself to you completely, then what was it for? It's been a few days since I sat down to write and I've done a lot of thinking. You won't believe it, but a person can change a lot in a few days. Have you ever sat next to a person who seems to have no cares in the world? They're so full of joy and happiness. Love just oozes out of every action and word they say. They have an aura about them and you just love being around them. They are a joy to be around. They're also incredibly smart and intelligent and everything just seemed to go right in their lives. I met someone like that once many years ago, and I want to be like that person one day. I love you, Aphrodite, so much, as the divine spirit that was sent to me by the universe all those years ago. I've said this before and I will say it again. I truly believe that you saved my life and gave it meaning and direction on more than one occasion. I've been trying to understand what happened to me. How did things turn out the way they did and why? All my life, and I've never come close to an answer as I've until now. I believe the answer lies in acceptance. Acceptance that everything that's ever happened to me, all the losses and all the disappointments, all happened exactly as they were destined to happen. Acceptance that you and I were never meant to be, and that's okay. The love I felt for you, that I feel for you, that too is okay. I need not suppress it. I need to let it overflow and become my superpower as it once did when we first met. When I see an image of a loving young couple and think of you, I will no longer feel jealousy, bitterness and frustration of having been denied something so beautiful. Instead, I shall feel intense joy that I have held you in my heart with love for so long. My heart has overflown with love for decades. That is a wonderful thing and a reason to be happy. In the past few days, something extraordinary has been happening to me. The tension in my head and the tightness in my chest seems to have melted away all by itself. Not completely gone though, Aphrodite. But I feel like I'm slowly healing. Baby, if I could overcome the struggle and just go back to being normal once more, how wonderful that would be. So, this April or July 2025, I'm planning to go back to Zim for the first time in nearly 4 decades, darling. I'm gonna go back to Gweru, go back to Chaplain High. Back to where it all started. I'm gonna walk around, look at that chemistry classroom where I saw you for the first time. I'm gonna sit on a bench at the rugby field where our wedding in my dreams took place. I'm gonna take a handful of soil from the ground and smear it all over my face and be truly connected with the place. I'm gonna let my heart swell with love and joy as I remember and think of you, Aphrodite Kasim. I'm gonna say how deeply grateful I am for every moment and opportunity that Chaplain High brought into my life. I don't know where you're, Aphrodite, or how you are. Every day I pray that you're okay, and that you want for nothing, you're rich even. You can buy me a drink then. Jokes aside, I truly wish you the very best, Aphrodite. I shall write to you again after my trip to Zim and let you know how things went. That is, unless I have another magical dream like the one of our wedding. Lastly, Aphrodite, please don't misunderstand me when I say that I think that I've reached the stage in my cathartic journey where I feel that I have to forgive myself for the sin of hopelessly falling in love with you, and from the absolute crime of abandoning the only woman whom I gave my heart to and who reciprocated my love for her. There is nothing I can ever do to change the past. All I can do is try to be the best human being I can be with the rest of the time I have left on this earth. Until next time, yours truly, Kosi. P.S. I just wanted to say that if you would like to talk to me just once, you would be most welcome. My love for you is now pure and spiritual, no strings attached. You don't need to love me back. If you don't want to talk to me, I completely understand. It's been a few days since I sat down to write, and I have to say I'm just blown away by the changes I noticed in myself since I started my journey of acceptance a few days ago. When you come to me in my thoughts, there's no bitterness or longing for what could have been. Instead, there's only a deep sense of love and gratitude that you came into my life and tested my resolve to its limits. I accept that what I put you through might be considered really terrible, but it was done out of childhood ignorance and was not meant to hurt you in any way, shape, or form. I wanted so much to be loved by you. I lost any dignity and self-respect and nearly paid the ultimate price. I've forgiven myself for abandoning Beatrice, and pray that she was able to move on and find love that was deserving of her beauty, intellect, and charm. I truly feel ready to now leave the past behind and embrace the future, whatever it may bring. On a funny note, I finally understand that song by Crosby, Stills, and Nash that I mentioned in one of my letters. If you can't be with the one you love the one you're with. It sounds like it's saying, love somebody else if you can't have the one you want. But what I think it's really saying is, get to know who you really are, and love and respect yourself. Because no one else will ever love you if you don't have any love for yourself. Love myself. Now that's pushing it, but you get my drift, right? I shall always be eternally grateful to you for coming into my life and giving me hope in the darkest moments of my life. Was it love, or was it infatuation? You had the key to my heart in your hands, Aphrodite. You could have just reached in and taken it. Oh, the love I would have given you. Goodbye, Aphrodite.
My first love. Tanda sogu kala, my first love. Tanda sogu kala, oh yeah. Ngakunika inhliziyo yami wayithatha, wayiphosela emilweni yatsha yaphela. Lo mphefumulo wami wangishiya, kangazi ukuthi sizophinda sibonane. Kweliza yona tando sokuqala, sithandwa sami, sithandwa sokuqala, yeah. Ngihlala ngikhumbula ngawe ekuseni, emini nantamba mabathi ubulawa yini lo, ubulawa ngothando, ngibulawa ngothando, ngibulawa ngothando, ngothando, ngothando sokuqala. Oh yeah, ngakunika inhliziyo yami wayithatha, wayiphosela emlilweni yatsha yaphela, lo mphefumulo wami wangishiya. Angazi ukuthi sizophinda sibonane, kweliza yona sithando sami sokuqala. Beke ngakhohlwe ngawe, inhliziyo yami isho njalo, ngiyazama ukuphila, uphi imicabango uyibuye, ngawumlilo ongapheli. Sithando sami intombi enjengoma, umhlaba ungoya, hamba nami masibuye ekaleni, angisafuni uhlala ngedwa ngikukabule, futhi ngitshela ukuthi ngiyakuthanda. Tshela ungiphi ithuba woza sithando sami. Sithando sokuqala, sithando sami. Oh, oh, oh. Sithando sokuqala, sithando sokuqala, sithando sokuqala, sithando sokuqala, sithando sami. My first love, ngikhala busuku